Welcome to the Taking the Lead podcast, where we empower people to be unstoppable. I'm Christina Hepner with my co-hosts Leslie Hoskins and Timothy Cuneo. So we have not talked about this yet, but recently we turned in future leader dog Graham. And I know we had a whole podcast on him with two other of his co-raisers. And I cannot believe how fast over a year flew by with him.
How are you doing? How you holding up?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because
you having withdrawals?
I went into it with the mindset of, this is not my dog. Mm-hmm. And I think you really have to go into it with that mindset, not that I am going to raise a dog and I get a puppy at home. You have to go into it with the mindset of, I am doing this for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like adopting, fostering essentially is what you kind of do for that year. Teach it essential things like sit and all those basic obedience training. And so I went into it with that mindset. Obviously, it's still hard. Mm-hmm. Saying goodbye to a dog that you've seen go from being a puppy, have its little teenager phase, because I will say he had that, to at the end of it, he was such a wonderful dog, and going out on outings with him and seeing him behave so well, it makes you feel so proud of what you did as a group. And I know Graham's other raisers would say the same thing. And it's difficult. You cry, but you know that the dog is going to choose the best life for him. And you hope that it's with a client and he becomes a guide. And then the hope is, if he does, we get to meet that person that he is paired with. So it's a great experience.
So the big question is, would you do it again?
Yes, just not at this time in my life, because as you both know, I get married very soon. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things happening, but I think you really have to do it at a time in your life that's good for you. And I loved the co-raising experience. I think it's so good for people who have busy lives, who's working full time, who may not be able to take the dog into work with them or wherever they may be going. And so having those co-raisers and sharing that responsibility with somebody else was really cool. And it really helps you build teamwork and responsibility and all of that. So it was just a really great experience doing it with my marketing team members.
Yeah. And so many people talk about, right? I could never puppy raise because I could never give the dog back up. But like you're saying, you went into it with that mindset of I'm volunteering, right? Yeah. I'm giving my time, I'm giving my dedication, I'm giving my love and support to this dog that I know at the end is hopefully going to be a guide dog for somebody else.
Yeah.
So having that mindset on the front end is really great. And one of the best things I've always heard volunteers or puppy raisers say when they talk about I could never is that it's not what you're giving up, but what you're giving. And thinking about the life that you might be giving of independence to somebody is huge. And it's such an important part of our organization. We couldn't do what we do without puppy raisers like you and your co-raisers. So
absolutely. And I'm always bringing dogs home, which is
we need to address at some point. We definitely need to talk about that.
So my fiance, almost husband, does not enjoy it as much as I do because he gets really attached and sad. But I've brought home so many dogs, whether it be for a week because they needed a home before they went somewhere or that sort of stuff. So I was used to it. Obviously, it's still hard. You still cry. It's like your kid going to college.
I can't.
You know, Leslie's gonna start crying now.
My mind's not there yet, so
you're seeing them go on to a life that they choose, and whatever career path that is for them, whether it's a career to be a guide or a different career, because we career change to different careers as well, or if he just wants to career change to be a pet. But I will not be the one that's adopting him. So.
Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of an update, and we will look forward to future updates.
Yes, I'm not going to tell you anything else, just about the experience.
Yes. Well, thank you to you and your co-raisers, and honestly to all puppy raisers for the time and dedication and to help us provide beautiful leader dogs to all of our wonderful clients.
Yes.
It's fantastic. But today we've got other things to talk about. Today, our guest has a big role with Leader Dog that is only going to get better with time.
Yes, Avril Rinn is a guide dog client who is working with her third leader dog, Louie. She first came to Leader in 2005, and she serves as the secretary on the Leader Dog board.
Hello, Avril. Welcome to the podcast. I met you last November, so it's great that you're on here. Welcome. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So, guess I will start out. I'm Canadian. I was born in London, Ontario, or that's where I live now, in London, Ontario, Canada. I have had a number of things that I've done over the years. So, I should say I am visually impaired, clearly, if I have a guide dog. I started out, I think I wanted to be a social worker, and I was taking a history degree, and then that did not end very well for me. And I waited 17 years before I went back to university and finished my degree. And by then I had decided I wanted to be a psychotherapist. So I ended up getting a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I am now a working psychotherapist. Before that, though, I worked in a lot of things related to helping people with visual impairments and other disabilities prepare for and be employed. So spent a lot of time teaching computers to people back in the early days of computers, when people didn't have computers at home and the world was learning to use computers, but a lot of times people with disabilities didn't have the opportunity to learn in groups that worked for them. So I did a lot of computer teaching, probably taught hundreds of people in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s. And then I kind of became a specialist in assistive technology. And after that, I moved on to more of an IT role, and which kind of led, really, although it really didn't actually, to my role. Somehow I changed to becoming a psychotherapist. And it's really interesting. One of the things I always say to people is the differences in IT is things are either working or they're not. And in counseling, it's a lot more gray.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's so interesting how you start out your life or your journey in one direction. You think you're going to do something, and then all of a sudden there's a twist, there's a turn, and you never really know where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're in the right spot now. So do you enjoy your work that you're currently doing?
I love what I'm doing. I always say, so I'm rather old. I was born in the 60s. So I always say to people, I'm having...
Hey.
Right? I always say to people that, like, I feel like the wisdom of the ages has really been I enjoy my life so much more now than I did when I was a lot younger. And so I meet a lot of young people who think they're in their 30s and they're kind of, it's over for me, right? Nothing good can happen now. And I tell them, like, if, statistics are any indication, you've got about 50 years left of your life. So, and there's all kinds of things you can do at that time.
That is some great advice.
I hope this isn't as good as
I know.
I mean, not that my life isn't fantastic, but yeah, I'm looking forward to those later years and all the things that come with it. That's funny. Well, we're glad that you're here with us today and sharing your experience. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey specifically with Leader Dog and how you even found Leader Dog.
So at some point in 2002 or 2003, maybe a bit later than that actually, because I came to Leader Dog in 2005, I decided I wanted to get a guide dog. I've been visually impaired my entire life. I was born with cataracts on my eyes in the 60s. And when that happened at that time, they first of all did not know that the babies were visually impaired. And so the critical period for vision-brain connection did not develop. And then the process of dealing with that was a surgery that involved just cutting the lenses of your eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's got a name. You can, if you have no lenses, you have aphakia, it's called. And lots of people with congenital cataracts don't have lenses. They have aphakia. And then you have other kinds of things too. So I got around when I was a lot younger. Of course, I was one of those people who was super conscientious. So I spent a lot of years not using a cane, which made me have a lot of unfortunate encounters that luckily didn't end in too much pain or injury. And then at some point I realized I needed to start using a cane. So I did that. And then I thought, well, if I'm using a cane, I should get a guide dog. And then I had all these rules about, I had to have a job where I could make enough money to support the dog. I always felt like a guide dog was something I had to aspire to. And so I got my first guide dog in 2005 when I turned 39. And that was also a year that I went back to school and I bought my first house. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be able to have a dog now. And so then I started looking at the different guide dog schools, and I had criteria. I had a whole like checklist thing that I did. And at that time, places sort of had stuff on the internet, but a lot of it was you would call them and they'd send you packages.
Oh, wow.
And the things I remember, if I remember correctly, the things I cared about were that you got to own the dog as soon as you left the organization, that you had, that there were private rooms, that there was internet in the room, because at that point, the training was 28 days and my employer wasn't thrilled with me being gone that long. So she expected me to work a little bit. And the last criteria was I wanted a German Shepherd. So Leader Dog checked all those boxes. Plus the climate was very similar to where I lived. I chose to come in the winter so that I would, because that was the most challenging season for me. And I wanted to learn to work with the dog in the winter when, it was snowy and lots of travel challenges.
Yeah.
So I applied to Leader Dog, and I think I knew in April or May that I was coming for the November-December class that year.
Wow.
Gosh, that's so different than how it works now, right? And that doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I mean, 20 years, I guess so much changes. That's really interesting. And so that you had your first Leader Dog. How long did you work with that dog?
I had my first dog for 5.5 years. He had been a return dog.
Okay.
So he was almost 3. He was almost 3.5, I think, when I got him. And he unfortunately passed away just before he turned 8.
That's always so sad.
Yeah.
And so how long of a break did you take in between getting a new guide dog? That's always a very unique journey that people go through.
So interestingly, I remember thinking I would never have it when I knew he wasn't well for about a month, and I was thinking probably wasn't going to end well for him, and it ended up not. And I remember thinking I'm not going to get another one. And I remember, I believe he was euthanized on Saturday, and I was filling out the application on Sunday.
Wow, that was fast.
It was.
And so what was that process like to go from your first dog to your second dog?
Although they were both German Shepherds, they were completely opposite personality types. My first guy was very aggressive and out there and pushy and confident, and my next one was a bit quieter and more cautious. But I mean, I loved him for all of his great characteristics too, and he was a spectacular guide.
And now that we don't have German Shepherds and we have Labs and Golden Crosses, why do you still come to Leader Dog?
Well, that's a good question. I guess because I feel a great deal of gratitude to Leader Dog. I've gotten to being on Leader Dog's Board of Trustees has been a thrilling life experience for me. I've learned so much. I've met so many wonderful people. There certainly was a time when I heard the German Shepherds were off the table that I thought about one of the other schools that does train them, but it really wasn't a decision. Like I wasn't going to not be part of Leader Dog anymore.
Yeah. And so what is your current dog?
My current dog is a Labrador Retriever named Louie. He is yellow in color.
And so what's it like going from German Shepherds to a Labrador Retriever?
I feel that I made a lot of mistakes and I was not prepared. One of my best Louie stories is not that long after I had him, I was cleaning out my office and I threw a bunch of stuff in the non-covered garbage can. And when I came back, he was just finishing up eating a DVD.
Oh no.
No.
He just crunched it right down. Yeah, so the friendliness, like the German Shepherds are more attached to one person, and they when they stare at people, it's usually not in a friendly way. It's either indifference or maybe a little bit, people might perceive it as aggression, but they're not that interested in other people. One of the things I think is funny, if kibble fell on the floor, I was vacuuming it up, right? No German Shepherd was eating kibble off the floor. Louie just comes running, any food.
Yes.
I had also not heard that dogs would lick the dishes, the dirty dishes in the dishwasher. This was a new one on me, that clearly Louie had maybe been allowed to do that because he knew all about what the dishwasher was.
That's so funny. So it's kind of like being a first-time guide dog user again, right? You need like a whole new manual.
No, I wasn't fully prepared for what he was, and I did the flex training. So I was here for a week, and then I went home with the dog and a trainer for a week. Mm-hmm. And I think I needed longer. I should have stayed longer. Just learned to live with the lab. Though to be clear, he's a good worker, right? He's really tough. He's great in every situation. He's not He's not in constant threat assessment mode, which is a thing a lot of times German Shepherds are scanning the environment to see what could go wrong. But Louie just thinks everything's always going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very positive.
So, Avril, you live in Canada. So,
I do.
are the guide dog rules there differently? And how's it to travel with a guide dog in Canada? Is it different rules?
So here in the U.S., it's federally regulated, but in Canada, it's provincially regulated. So we have provinces that are counterparts of your states. And so the province of Ontario, where I live, has a law, but it is very open to interpretation, let's say. And so it's like here, there's a lot of dogs being passed off as service dogs that really don't have a lot of, let's say, tasks that they perform other than to be present. There's also a lot of the same kinds of things happen here, right? Like the rideshare denials. So pretty much the same things that happen to Americans will happen to Canadians, but you have a bit more recourse because I think with the Department of Justice behind you, like we don't really have a mechanism. They say they do, but really nothing bad can happen to people. Although I will say Ontario does have a second law called the Blind Persons Rights Act. And you can actually have, if you're denied service, you can have a business or an individual charged, and they could be fined up to, I think, $10,000. Now, this is rare, but that's another tool we have. So it's pretty, like most of the kinds of things that Americans are facing, Canadian guide dog handlers would also face.
Have you yourself experienced any rideshare denials?
So I don't travel too much, and when I do, I tend to organize everything ahead of time. I'm not an Uber user,
Okay.
and right now I have an account with a kind of a little bit of a higher end taxi service, which actually isn't that much more expensive, but the drivers are very aware of the legalities, and I've never had a problem with them. But I've certainly had problems with almost everywhere you go now. It seems like it's much more pervasive that you're challenged and asked, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there, like it can't be a service dog because it's not wearing a vest and so on.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what guide dog handlers here would be facing.
Absolutely. And so frustrating. It's just, how can we continue to advocate and educate the public on service animals? I know we do lots of different presentations and we have different flyers and things like that, but the more we can do here in the US and also in Canada to really help advocate for service animals, specifically guide dogs in our situation, the better.
Yeah, especially with everybody wanting to take their emotional support animals everywhere, and there's different laws and all of that. And so I think we have a great flyer that explains the differences and all of that. So I think it's so important for people and businesses to know as well.
Yeah, the difference between service animal, emotional support animal, and therapy dogs. There's lots of different categories that animals can fall into these days, and they all have different rules of what they can and cannot get away with. Interesting. So we do want to talk about, though, the most important thing really here, and actually all of it is really important. So we've learned a little bit about your specific history with Leader Dog and traveling in Canada. And now you are a member of the Leader Dog Executive Board. How long have you been on the board?
I joined the Leader Dog Board of Trustees in 2006, and I had no idea when I left here in 2005. I remember getting my picture taken with the dog in front of the lion statue, like everyone's tradition is. And I remember saying to the dog, like, you won't, take a look around, buddy, you won't be back. And then in 2006, they invited me to join the board. And at that time, Leader Dog was doing a program called Work Counts, and it was a computer training program to help people learn skills and then get jobs. And at that time, that's exactly what I was doing. That's what my work was. So I think they originally asked me because I had experience doing that. And then that program, for reasons I'm not totally clear on, just didn't last very long. And then I just stayed on the board, and then I went, you're only allowed to be on for 12 years and then you go off. And so I went off in 2018, and I did not expect to be back, but I was very privileged to be invited back again in 2019. And so, now I am the secretary.
And not only the secretary, but you are in line to be the first female international chair who is blind or low vision. What does that mean to you? That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super honored to have been asked. Like I said before, Leader Dog, I've gotten so much from being not even just a guide dog handler, like meeting so many wonderful people, the staff and volunteers who work here. I am deeply privileged to be part of this, and I'm really excited about what the future holds for me on the board, and I hope that I can, do whatever position I end up having justice, because I really want to be as valuable and helpful as I can to Leader Dog. I learned so much about myself and about other people and about the world and about the giving, warm nature of the humans that I've met. I just feel extremely privileged to be in the place that I am.
Well, congratulations being back on the board. So why is it important for you to be on the board? How does it make you feel about yourself and what your role with Leader Dog is now?
Well, when you're on the board, you have the opportunity to have some influence in terms of the direction things go in. It's been really exciting to be on the board as Melissa Weiss has taken over being in charge here at Leader Dog. And there's just a lot of really positive, exciting energy here right now. And I feel really excited to be part of that, because I think that we can be a real leader in a number of things. Like Leader Dog was, I believe, the first guide dog school to have an orientation and mobility program. And to me, although the guide dog program is really exciting, that O&M program is probably in my mind, the more life-changing for people, because you end up there when you probably are thinking you might not, like life has changed for you and you might not be able to do some of the things you did. And I think O&M gives people back that confidence and those skills. So it's just really awesome to be here and to be part of the organization when all these really cool changes are happening, because the industry is at arguably a bit of an inflection point too. Like there are, in my mind, some existential concerns that we have in terms of dogs in the environment and challenges that we have with like the rideshare denials and things like that. And positive training hasn't been around that long, and so a lot of us are still learning how to manage in that new environment with the dogs. So it's kind of cool, and Leader Dog's also kind of embarking on this process of kind of working with the whole person, like helping people get some other types of skills that they might need. And it's really cool to see the direction that the organization is going in.
And how do you bring the voice of the clients into those board level decisions?
I like to think that pretty much anything that I contribute comes from a client perspective, right? Like I feel like I have had some pretty good experiences that help me be able to translate some of that for people, because I think a lot of times when you join any board, right? Like I've volunteered on other boards as well, you maybe don't know as much about the client base or what the organization does or what it's like to be those people. And so I feel like I kind of bring that, and I bring that, to some of the decisions the board makes, but also my fellow board members. They know me and they see me in the world working with my dog, whereas maybe they don't when, they're on campus for meetings every few months, but maybe they don't actually ever see anyone working with the dog, but they see me with mine, and there are chances for them to get to know me and to understand what it's like. Because I think having a guide dog is almost like a lifestyle choice, because once you've got that dog, you have to be always thinking about it too. And so I think understanding like why people come and the reasons why it's important for them to have a guide dog, I can really bring information about that.
Yeah, that's super important. And whether they want a guide dog or just want to come for O&M white cane or our white cane program as well.
It's a really exciting time, right? To think about, we've got the alumni board happening. So we have, 12 clients who are on the alumni board, bringing that perspective. And we have several members on the executive board who are also blind or low vision, knowing that you're going to hopefully step into that line of chair of the executive board. It seems like it's all working the way it should have been for probably many, many, many years. But we're getting to that point where truly the voice of the client is at the center of everything that we are doing. I think it's a really exciting time.
I think it really is an exciting time, and it's really interesting to see how Leader Dog is meeting the challenges, because there are a lot of challenges out there for being a guide dog handler right now. And I'm really interested in how Leader Dog is embracing the fact that we need to make some of these changes and do some of the things differently than we did before. So it's pretty cool to see the dynamic nature of things and how they're evolving.
Absolutely. And as we're kind of wrapping up here, Avril, do you have any advice for anybody who's just wanting to get a little bit more involved, whether it be at the local level or with an organization? Anything that you would suggest to somebody?
I guess what I would suggest to people is not to think about your visual impairment as, a huge barrier. It's certainly going to mean that you do things differently, but there are just so many causes out there, and it doesn't even have to be a blindness related one, right? Like there's just so many things out there people can get involved in. So I am really big on encouraging people to pick something hard to do and to try to do it. I think, and this is maybe more the therapist in me coming out, but a lot of people think that the goal is, or the end point is the goal, but really the goal should be the journey, and the place where you're going to have the most fun and learn the most and feel the most vital and involved is during the journey. And probably this journey of making, the world more accommodating for guide dogs, or being able to be in the world with a guide dog, is probably a never ending kind of process. So I would highly encourage people to do whatever you can to be involved in your community, in your world, and make a difference. And honestly, you're probably going to make more of a difference at your local level than you will in a larger level. So just to try to make your, advocating to your own community for things that you need. Maybe you can't change a law in your state or your province, but you might be able to change one in your municipality or your city. So get out there and just be as involved as you can be, and do things in person. Be out there with other humans and just have a good time.
I like that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your history with Leader Dog and hopefully the goals of the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much to our listeners for listening to the Taking the Lead podcast. I'm Leslie Hoskins with hosts Timothy Cunyo and Christina Hepner. We hope you enjoyed hearing about Avril and her current and future roles with Leader. Please continue to join us as we dive into the world of blindness.
If you'd like to learn more about applying to our free services at Leader Dog, you can head to leaderdog.org or call us at 888-777-5332. Don't forget, you can reach us at takingthelead@leaderdog.org with any questions or ideas. If you like today's podcast, make sure to hit subscribe and check us out wherever podcasts stream.